We're finally tackling your questions around judging today. We have a special guest, Mike Beaumont. He's our senior judge. Coast to Coast Car Talk starts right now.
New judging system, call it that, will absolutely give clarity to not only the team but everybody on what awards are classes and what awards are show awards.
Excellent.
Because that again is some of the feedback that we had from last year.
Yeah, I think the other feedback is just clarity on classes when they come in. Right? Is there going to be a KDM class? Is there going to be a stance class? Right?
Yeah, and I think when you look at your main focus areas, right? There's always going to be a stance award, right? There's always going to be an ice award because you see those at every show.
But will there be always? I mean, I've been at shows where ice awards have not been awarded. I mean, especially, and I'm just keen on ice because it's become way less prevalent in the last little while.
It has, yeah.
So are you guys going to strive to, is this going to be consistency then? Is that what we're looking at?
Yes and no. Like I was gonna say, the main awards or the main classes, there will be awards, but it'll still go back to the way it's been and where you don't have the entries, right? Like if we have no exotics, we're not going to give an exotic award.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But on the flip side, if we have one Datsun and it's not award worthy, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to win an award just because he's a Datsun, the only Datsun, right?
What about the other way around? You got one Datsun and it's amazing.
Well, then it should get an award.
Great, because I mean, I'm.
But at that point, you're not giving. I mean, depending on the logistics, like you roll it into a Nissan, right? Or you're not going to give it a best Datsun when you have one Datsun at the show.
Right.
You're
going to, whether it's best overall or, I mean,
yeah, it might roll into like a best classic or that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's always something, but that's where I think people need to understand that fluidity is key, and it cannot be a regimented. This is our trophy list, and it's just across the board the same. Yeah. It's specific to attendance at the show, and it's malleable.
I would argue that winning the wrong trophy is almost as bad as not winning a trophy at all, right? So if you say had a guy that had a mini truck, right, and we gave him a best lowrider, that because it kind of was hugging the ground, they won't be happy with that because it's not a lowrider, right? Yeah. So I mean, we never want to get caught in that, and that's why I think we have to your point, be fluid, and I think our customers have to.
People just need to understand that, like
yes.
it cannot be uniform across the board because the cars fluctuate and vary so greatly city to city.
Yeah,
it is what it is, right? There's been and it can be changed year to year, right?
Yeah,
look at Calgary year over year.
Remember in Calgary we had best graffiti because one year there was just a ton of cars that had like amazing graffiti.
Well, even it's been filthy with exotics where we've given away 5 exotic awards, and then there's been years when there's 4.
Right.
Or 3, right? And so it just depends. So people just need to understand that. It's going to change. It's going to be fair, even though from where they're looking at it may not feel that way. But it is, if you step back and look at it globally, it's fair. And it's consistent. Yeah. And that's what they need to remember.
Well, you look at the Winnipeg show last year, and Manitoba Subarus brought 35 cars.
There were a lot of Subarus.
There were a lot of Subarus. Right, and you can't keep the awards count stagnant, like the categories in that regard, because you get a lot of different types of cars at each of the locations, right? And that's one good thing about coast to coast driven is that each city has its own kind of culture, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Vancouver is high money. You see a lot of the high dollar cars, right? Calgary, Edmonton are pretty similar.
I think there's a vast difference between Edmonton and
Do you?
Calgary. Yep. And from a show standpoint, from a show perspective, I think they're completely different cities. Just my opinion.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. I just think that the culture, for lack of a better word, is very different from between Edmonton and Calgary.
The culture is different. The content, I think, is similar, right? Like you get a lot of Calgary guys coming to Edmonton for the
fair
show.
enough,
A lot
yes.
of Edmonton people going to Calgary just because they're so close, right?
Yeah, and you know, the socioeconomics are similar, right, and everything else. So yeah, I mean, in that regard. But I think the cultures are vast. Like every show that I've been to has a very unique feel that's only kind of at that show.
Yeah.
A huge part of that is the local scene and culture and what it brings to the table.
Yeah. But I would ultimately, and I think we're all going to agree with this, that a clean car is a clean car. I mean, detailed, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's still the fundamentals.
There's still universal truths
when you look at judging
to it.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Quality of the installs, whether or not the car's been detailed and cleaned properly, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's fundamental stuff that's going to apply in any city. So we have, I think, in each city, we do between 30 to 50 awards, right? So
Somewhere around
I think we're going to stick with that number. I think beyond that, I really don't see much changes. Most of the faces are going to be the same, right, when it comes to judging.
Yep.
So if there's any questions, definitely drop them in the comments boxes. And then in terms of trends, like I'm actually eager. You got a new blog coming out, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this blog because it's gonna drop probably about the same time as this podcast.
So it's about trends and fads that I've seen kind of, let's say, emerge over the last few years. Kind of the big points I hit on is big body kits, big flares like Rocket Bunny, Liberty Walk, Pandem. There's some big names out there now, and everybody wants them, right? Big wings, right? The spoilers are getting ridiculously large, and you'll see it in my blog. But I kind of touch on. You look at 19 years ago, 2001, Fast and the Furious, right? Those spoilers had fairly modest pedestals, right? They're 6 inches tall, and people were losing their shit over that. Yeah. How ugly they were, and those things are huge.
And they still are.
and now you've got these chassis mount spoilers that are 20 inches tall, and they sit over the roof of the car, like they're taller than the roof of the car.
4 additional braces.
Yeah.
Hold them up. Yeah.
And and I name drop Battle Arrow in the blog because they're one of the more
horrid offenders,
right? And whatever, call me a hypocrite. Yeah. The Corona's got a big chassis mount.
If they want a booth, Battle Arrow, come see me. We're still happy to serve you.
Yeah. But and I'm writing this blog post, and I'm like, just like, geez, I'm like building the Corona, and I am doing every one of these things. So I'm like jumping on the fad bandwagon with this build. Oh, it's on there. But again, I also touch on that. I think there's a time and a place for big spoilers. If you got a track car that the wing is going to serve purpose, then put it on.
Of course.
But I mean, your daily driver,
that's
Honda
1%.
Civic, right?
That's 1% of the big wings out there, though.
Yeah.
So.
No, I know. I actually mentioned that in my blog too. But 1% are actually functional.
Yeah, and I applaud those. I think they're great. Yeah. Like, take a GT2 RS. There's stock spoilers, giant. It's functional though. So, okay, cool. And most of those are probably getting driven on a track. Wicked, no problem. But the Prius with the giant, chassis mount on it.
Jonas, yeah.
I don't even know names. I'm just saying it's ugly. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's gross.
You should see what he's building for this year, though.
I'm sure I'm not knocking the quality or anything like that. It's my taste. I absolutely hate those. Yeah. So that's just me.
Yeah, he's building a one-off wide body kit for his Prius.
Oh, he's sticking in the Prius, eh?
Yeah, so he's gone away from the cambered wheels. So he's going with a zero camber wide wheel and that sticks out from the fender quite a bit. He's boxing it in and making fenders for it.
Really?
So I'm curious about your opinion, because my opinion is that people are going to move away from the custom wide body, but you're saying more of that.
The kind of the final word in my blog is build it for you. Don't build it because you want Instagram points, right? Don't build it because every other person with that type of car, Evo, has a Voltex kit, right?
Oh, Voltex wing on Evos is so original.
Yeah. So that was kind of my last word is build it for you. If you like it, sure. But mixing all these fads, there's a fine line between it looking like shit and it looking really good. It takes a lot of finesse to make all these things work together.
Yes, execution is critical. 100%. 100%. I think I lean into, just by nature of human beings, it's got maybe 2 or 3 more years, and then people are going to be like jonesing for a Fursburz with uncut fenders, because they're going to be hard to find.
Interestingly enough, so the Hakoska, everybody's cut the fenders, pretty much everybody, right? So
Because they were probably all rusted.
no, hey, come on. No, it's because everybody wanted that GTR style, fender arch and that type of thing, right? So front fenders get cut, rear quarters get cut. There's a few guys that I know. One of them down in California. He cut his arches out because he wanted the GTR style look. And within 20 minutes, somebody had bought those cutouts so they could weld them back on their car and put the surf line back and basically get it back to stock.
Yeah, I think that's going to be like the new unicorns. It's something just getting back stock body lines is going to be a thing in a few years.
And but not even only stock body lines. Like you look at Chelsea's car, right? To me, Chelsea's a game changer, and I called her that in the blog. Well, in a roundabout way, but she's got the bolt-on kit. That's not bolt-on. She's took the time and molded it in and made it look kind of semi-factory, right? And I think people need to go that way. People be unique, right? Do something different than everybody else.
I feel like I'll debate that and say that I'm seeing more and more people, to your point about the Evos and Voltex wings, right? Everybody's kind of got the same kit or the same foundation, and then they do little things different, right? And I don't know if it's...
But it's the same.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, okay, put little spiky fender bolts on instead of flat ones. Just don't use drywall screws.
Yeah, we've seen some really. I like the what did Avery call them, interfoolers, right?
Yeah.
We've seen some pretty interesting stuff at Driven from a judging perspective, right? So and I mean all these fads. Like how does a judge? Because obviously bias is something. Every judge has their own bias, right? And not a surprise. We don't. We try to put our biases away often, and so that that doesn't weigh heavily into how judging is done, right? How do you guys match? Like what's the trick when it comes to that?
I think there's a definite delineation between bias and opinion, right? I'm very opinionated, but my bias will not show at all in a judging atmosphere, right? I look at quality of build, fit and finish, cleanliness, that type of stuff, right? The blog post talks about, I call them tilty wheels, right? So you're talking like negative 30-degree camber, right? Which I think is fucking stupid. But on a show car that you don't drive on the road, a show car, it can be very suited. But don't put that car on the road that's got 1 inch of tire contact patch and in the blog I say it's got like a 1 block turning radius, right? Like it's not safe, right? You can't daily drive those cars. You get stuck on speed bumps. You know.
But as a judge,
Again,
you still have to judge.
That's my opinion
when it comes to stance.
But when I look at stanced cars at a show, I say, okay, this is a show car. This isn't driven on the road. I look for fit and finish, quality, that type of thing, right? Like if you've got a stanced car where your fenders are all chewed up, you're obviously not going to get as many points as a properly stanced car that doesn't have chewed up fenders, right?
Yeah. We should talk about the original blog. What was that about again?
Sore winners.
Sore winners. That's right.
We talked about that on the first podcast.
We did. We talked about it on the first podcast. We said we would revisit it. So let's revisit it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I stand behind that we should stop talking about them, ignore them, not give them any more attention than they've already received.
Yeah.
And focus on the positive driven supporters and not the detractors. It's still there, man.
And I think in my mind, the whole vision of that blog post was to make it known and then move on, in the hopes that it will deter people from, let's say, making a fool out of themselves.
Oh, yeah. No, I totally get the point, dude. Trust me.
Yeah.
I'm just a firm believer in not everybody in this world deserves a voice. And I absolutely believe that. So
I believe that too, but at a show, when you're judging, you have to give an equal opportunity to all the competitors to talk to you.
Absolutely.
And then when you get, 30 minutes of my time, which in a 6-hour show is quite a bit.
it's way too much.
Right.
Yeah.
When you give that much time to one person who's, complaining or that type of thing, it takes away from the rest of the competitors.
Yep.
So with the blog post, it was maybe gonna get that thought set in everybody's mind, right? That let's not do that and give everybody their spotlight, right?
100%.
So do you want to talk about the sore losers at all?
We had a few sore losers. There was
They don't come back. They have come back.
They always come back.
They give them a couple years.
There's a couple, not naming names, that are back every year.
They'll go away for a couple years, but they usually come back.
The one that sticks in my mind is the Red Deer show, not Red Deer, Saskatoon. The Saskatoon show. We had one guy that was quite upset that he lost, and we went and talked to him. I think it was me and Blocker and Costas, and we calmed him down because he, like I said, he was pretty upset. We walked through his car with him and gave him some pointers. And in the first 5 minutes, he was so let's say, blinded by his anger.
Emotionally charged.
He didn't hear anything we were saying. But once he had calmed down and we talked about some of the stuff, he's like, yeah, okay, I see that. And we told him, be that person who takes this as constructive criticism, fixes it, comes back next year better, right? Chase that award, right? Don't just say, well, fuck you, I'm done. I'm never coming back.
I think human
right?
nature is that they felt cheated, right?
You cannot legislate that out. And it doesn't matter what system you employ, doesn't matter what you do, it's emotional and you can't control it, and it's always going to happen. Always going to happen. For no good reason. And was this a 12-year-old child that was upset?
Well, he was a younger kid.
Younger kid, of age to legally vote?
Yes.
To the end, right?
So out of the 3 people listening, Mom, please don't post anything. Let us know what you think.
Great. Mike,
thanks for joining us. That was
Yeah.
a wealth of knowledge. I hope we can get you back on, because there's a ton of stuff I want to talk to you about that we didn't even get into because Mark just monopolized it with judging bullshit. So
That's good. Yeah, I'll be glad to come back.
Yeah, thanks.